All right, moving on to section 2 of chapter 11, looking at invertebrate phylas. So we're going to talk about characteristics of oh my gosh, I can't talk. Characteristics of invertebrates, animals with no backbone, and then compare the different phylums to each other. So some fast facts about invertebrates. No backbone, that's the big one. No internal structure to support their bodies. They don't have skeletons on the inside like we do. They are smaller and they tend to move slower than vertebrates. And then the big thing, most animals are invertebrates, 95% of them. So starting off with the first phylum, Porifera, also known as sponges, and they're called Porifera because they have pores in them. These guys are the simplest invertebrates. They are asymmetrical. They don't have radial or bilateral symmetry, and they also don't have any tissues, organs, or organ systems. Another phylum, Cnidaria, also known as cnidarians. These are the jellyfish, the sea anemones, the hydras, and the corals. But the jellyfish are probably the big ones. They don't have any organs or organ systems, but they do have specialized tissues. And so I'm going to talk about their specialized tissues here in the next slide. They have radial symmetry. They have a single body that has a bunch of some type of tentacles. And then this is where they have specialized cells. Nomad Assist, specialized cells used for defense and capturing food. Now here's a close-up of a Nomad Assist here. If we zoom in on this tentacle and zoom in on this specialized cell right here, this is the Nomad Assist. It has a trigger, and when that trigger is activated, it will shoot out like a harpoon, if you will, to its prey and inject some kind of toxin or something that might paralyze it. So if you've seen Finding Nemo, when Dory and Marlin are going through the jellyfish and she gets caught up in tentacles, she probably got smoked by a bunch of these nematocysts. So another YouTube clip, and you know dang well Safari's not going to work. So back to, oh my gosh, Windows galore. YouTube. So you can see that it got triggered and the nematocysts they just shoot out. So I'm going to trigger it. There they are. So you feel the stinging sensation. Okay. So comparing Porifera to cnidarians, Porifera are sponges, asymmetrical, no tissues. Cnidarians are like jellyfish, and you could list off, the corals, the sea anemones, the hydras, but then they also have nematocysts, specialized cells. They have radial symmetry, and then how these guys are similar, there's no organ systems, there's no backbone, they don't have organs, and they both live in a marine environment. Okay, moving on to another phylum, the platyhelminths, also known as flatworms. These guys have bilateral symmetry, and they're a little bit more complex because they have some systems. They have nerve, muscles, digestive tissue, brain, but their digestive system only has one opening, a mouth, that serves as the mouth and the anus. Yeah. Bodies are soft and flattened, few cells thick. They live in moist environments, and they're often parasitic. Another thing about flatworms is that they tend to fight each other to figure out who's going to be the female. The loser becomes the female. So how they fight is, well, you could probably look this up. I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to get in trouble. But it's called, nope, I'm not even going to say the word. But anyways, they fight with sword structures. And I'll just leave it at that. Roundworms belong to the phylum Nematoda. Again, bilateral symmetry, so something they have in common with flatworms. They have nerve, muscle, digestive tissue, and brain, but their digestive system has two openings, a mouth and an anus. Whereas with the flatworms, they only had one. Round bodies with very thick cuticle, and they also live in moist environments. So to compare flatworms to roundworms, flatworms have flat bodies, soft bodies. Tapeworms are a great example of another flatworm. Roundworms, anus, round bodies, cuticle, but then how they're similar, a little bit more similarities between each other. Both exhibit bilateral symmetry, muscle tissue, digestive tissue, nerve tissue. They live in moist environments. Okay, so that does it for section 11.2, part 1. Tomorrow I will finish section 2.